this episode, we are full on spoilers for both the novel and the film. There will be a warning with a countdown for any potential spoilers for later books in the series.
Hello, this is Jen, and welcome back to WoT the Adaptation. I am your co-host along with Glenn.
Hey, I'm the Geeky Hippie. Welcome back. Yes, that's right. You heard co-host. She's not a guest anymore. We do have two guests up above. Right here, we've got MatsDaggerX. Most of you know
Nice to meet you.
Bill, tell us about yourself.
My name's Bill. I also go by Matt Stagger. Big Wheel of Time fan, Stephen King, Frank Herbert. So definitely in my wheelhouse, and it's great to be here.
And what parts of the internet do you prowl where people might have run into you?
Twitter of time, YouTube mostly. Try and stay away from Instagram or Facebook. They scare me. So that's about it.
Good idea. And we have another guest right up there, Androl, Bard of Time. Tell us about yourself, buddy.
Hello. Well, I'm mostly on Twitter. Twitter of Time. I make music based mostly in the Wheel of Time, but I'm also, active on Instagram, Twitch. Not Twitch, but TikTok.
TikTok,
Stuff like that. I'm around. Making music.
We're on TikTok too, apparently.
Yeah, look at that.
Apparently, I don't run the account. We're glad to have you both with us. Thank you for joining. I know Bill is like an expert on Dune. He's read it like 1,000 times.
Great. So
this should be a fun time. That's right. We're talking about Dune, the 1984 David Lynch
adaptation
movie.
Yes.
It was written and directed by Lynch, executive produced by Dino De Laurentiis, produced by Raffaella De Laurentiis. Composer, can't forget the composer on this one, is Toto. Possibly the best thing about the movie.
Absolutely.
Starring Kyle MacLachlan, Francesca Annis, Kenneth McMillan, and the late, great Jose Ferrer, and the currently still around great Sean Phillips, also known as Dame Jane Elizabeth Iolwin Phillips. The film was released December 14th, 1984, and I was there about a week later because I had just finished the book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
interesting.
I was pretty young when I read the book. So.
Well, without further ado, would you guys like to tackle some of the our feelings about the adaptation and the 1984 movie? Are you guys ready for the question and answer period?
Sure.
All right, let's give it a go. So question number 1 that we're all going to be kind of doing round robin is changes made from the source material that you did or did not like is number 1 that we're going to be discussing. And I guess since I started asking the question, I'll go first, kind of as a lead. Well, the source material, it actually stayed pretty close on most of the things. I've only read the first book of Dune, which I enjoyed immensely. I loved it more than I even thought I would.
You just discovered it this year, right?
Yes, I did. And the actual thing that I wanted to ask all of you is, so I'm glad that we're covering this because it's something that I've read recently and I do not remember. And maybe, Matt Staggers will really help me out on this. At the end of the movie, like Paul makes it rain, quote unquote, right? And that's not in the book. That's not in the book that I remember. Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's definitely a change from the source material. I kind of liked that. It kind of reminded me a lot of like the Wheel of Time and Rand thing slightly, a little bit. That's either, but that's going into another thing. Let's focus.
Oh, references to Wheel of Time are always welcome.
Okay.
So, even other properties.
Okay. Okay. So that was a little bit different. But actually I was surprised because they knocked out the first book in this movie, like the entire first book. And the more recent adaptation did not. It only covered like the first half or so. So as far as like the points that it hit pretty much all the points of the book to me.
For you?
Well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a different experience.
Okay.
I'll let the guys go first. I'll let the guys go next.
Okay.
Andrew?
Matt or Androl? Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I haven't had, years of experience of the series. I read it in preparation of this, and because my memory is so bad, I barely can remember the book. But I do what I can. And the movie I just watched because I was going to watch it on my vacation, laying on the beach, and the only copy I could get a hand of was on YouTube, and it was a 4-hour cut.
Oh.
And I almost wanted to, jump into the sea and not come up after 1 hour because
That's fair. That's fair.
yeah, but I got my hands on the theatrical cut.
Mhm.
So and I watched that, and it was it's so slow,
Yeah.
but it happened much. So I
Yeah.
watched it at 1.6 speed
Oh,
just
okay.
to get through it. And actually,
I've been doing that too.
except for Leto, everybody else sounded like they talked normally because apparently they talk really slow.
Really slow.
Except Leto,
Yeah.
he was talking like this. So, but everyone else sounded fine.
Mhm.
I'm not
Uh,
even sure what Leto's accent is.
no,
You're
I have
getting
no
crossed
idea.
now
I
with
mean,
the
I
accent.
mean,
German. It's
German?
German.
Is it
Okay.
German?
It's
mean-
funny nobody else at Trades has that accent. Not even his
Yeah.
family, not his soldiers.
it's weird. I mean, I don't like it. I mean,
I don't
so
blame
much.
you.
There's
That's
so
fair.
much. So much more science fiction from that era that I actually do like and do love. And when I read up on the movie that it cost 40 million to make, I was
At that time,
wait,
yeah.
Star Wars Episode 5 was made for $11 million, and that still holds up today.
And
Yeah.
speaking of Star Wars, we dodged a bullet. David Lynch almost directed Return of the Jedi.
No.
I didn't know that.
Can you imagine
No.
how
I'm not
bad-
okay with that.
I mean, people think the prequel trilogy and the sequel trilogy are bad.
Mhm.
That would have killed Star Wars forever.
Probably. Had the potential to, anyway. Yeah.
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 What
But
about
he
you,
did this
Matt?
movie instead.
That's good.
As an adaptation, there are certain plot points they do hit, and they do hit pretty well.
Mhm.
There are other things that are out of order that completely changes the sort of meat of the story that really bother me. The opening sequence to start with.
Mm,
I mean, it's 4.5 minutes of exposition that starts with Princess Erelon and then moves on to this computer tutorial.
mhm.
And then it immediately moves on to the Emperor, the Bene Gesserit.
And that's
And-
more expo.
Yeah. But the problem is you did all that setting them up as these sort of sneaky antagonists, and it
Mhm.
takes away from the Baron. We don't learn about any of those others being involved until we meet the Baron in the book.
Correct.
Yeah.
So to me, it undercuts the Baron's importance, his sneakiness, and his lethality towards the House of Atreides. So for me, that bugs me right off the bat.
That's
So
only the
that-
beginning of undercutting Baron
Yes.
Harkonnen.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I have a lot to
And
say.
everything about the Harkonnen family, from costume design to the writing and directing, just undercuts
The
the
costume design.
Harkonnens.
Yeah.
They're much
I mean-
smarter, they're much
Yeah.
more lethal,
Mhm,
they're dangerous, and they're smart.
mhm.
In the books, yeah. On here, they're
You just don't get
cartoons.
that in the movie.
They're cartoons. You know,
Dean
about the only
especially.
thing missing was a mustache to be twirled.
Yeah.
English from here.
Yeah, you've got that taken care of, you know.
So
Yeah. My big dislike when it comes, there's a couple things I like. I'll get to those, but my biggest dislike when it comes to changes is almost entirely, aside from seeing Chani and Paul's dreams, have dropped the prescience. You know, his ability to
Yeah.
see the future, which is like the key
Right.
to everything he does once he goes to the desert.
Mhm.
It's everything about what he does, and it's just gone.
Well, for-
It's never addressed, except you see him have a dream of Chani, and then he sees the Reverend Mother, and she puts her hand on his head and sees his dream of Chani, and then asks him about something else, about the water of life, and doesn't talk about his dreams like she does in the book.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, you can't tell Dune without foretelling,
Yeah.
basically, to put it in real time terms. It's just, it's like trying to tell the Wheel of Time without prophecies.
Right.
It's part and parcel with what the story is.
Well, it
Now-
undercuts his fear of the jihad. I mean, he sees
Yeah.
that and he's
And that word's
terrified
used
of it.
once
right.
in the movie, once in this version of the movie. I
Mhm.
don't know about the extended edition, but the books use like book uses the word jihad like
A
dozens of
lot.
times.
Yeah.
It
a
uses
lot.
crusade 4 times. I was reading an
uses-
article
He
about
uses
this. recently.
pogrom 3 times.
Yeah, because there was pogroms that were done.
Yeah.
You know, and all of that is left out. The other big thing they've done to this movie is they've removed all the Arab influences. Jihad is about the closest you come to having any Arab influence. In the book, I mean, the Fremen are completely Arabs. You know, Middle Easterns or North Africans.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
Zen Sunni. It's from a religion of Islam and Zen Buddhism that merged. I mean,
Mhm.
there's even Zen Shiite and Zen Sufi in the Dune world, you know, but they're, you know, everything Muslim and Arab has been stripped from this story.
Can we talk about the craziness of voice guns?
Oh my God.
I mean, what is
The
that about?
wording modules,
So, yeah, what is that
they're
about?
even bad sci-fi.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
just,
I was getting to the part where the scenery, costumes, and props was going to be coming up next, but yes, yeah.
Sorry,
No,
Yeah,
no,
I
no,
jumped the gun.
no, but you're right. No, you're totally. Well, it's funny you said you jumped the gun and it's about a gun anyway. Haha, that's your joke.
Yeah,
But
it
anyway,
just-
you did that on purpose. I see what you
little
did there.
pun, little pun.
I enjoy it, but moving on, I guess, to get to that because it's a very good point, Matt. Did any of the changes from the source material create plot holes or issues? Is the next question.
well, like I mentioned
ahead, Glenn.
with the Prussians, I mean,
Yeah.
much of the plot relies on it, and without it there,
Mhm.
it just the story of Dune is kind of left on the wayside. It'd be like
Mhm.
trying to still tell, like I said, Wheel of Time without prophecies, or you know, Star Wars without Luke Skywalker. You know, the
Mhm.
original Star Wars trilogy. You just, it's there.
Mhm. I would probably say, going back on something to touch on that you've already talked about, like the both of you about the Harkonnens, like that that was kind of like a whole thing like that was going to be set up about like the familial like situation there, and especially like the surprise about Paul and his where he
Right.
comes from. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That
we're
sort
full
of
spoilers here.
yeah, okay. So the fact that Baron Harkonnen is Paul's like grandfather, okay, it is definitely the fact that Paul is half Harkonnen or a quarter Harkonnen or however, I can't do the math here. But like having them so different than like the Atreides, it definitely that's going to cause like a little bit of conflict of continuity in my head of you know any future like adaptations, like if that had happened. It did not, but you know what I'm
Right.
saying, like
Thank
I'm
God.
just like, I'm just like, well, you know, then reading the book, I'm like, yeah, there's supposed to be 2 households, both alike in dignity. It's like a Shakespearean kind of Montague, like, you know what I mean?
Capulets.
Capulet thing. And that's not kind of, I wish that was conveyed more. That's kind of be my only thing, but
I'll
I'll
tell you
pass.
where it's really well conveyed, and it's, you know, yeah, it's using the text literally word for word, but the audiobook that I listened to is a full cast.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the guy who does Baron Harkonnen is probably the greatest voice in the entire thing.
cool.
It's just like, wow.
Yeah, it's deep and resonant, and I mean,
It-
he just oozes threat.
That's
but
good.
he also
It's
still
a
has
beautiful read.
dignity. He
Mhm.
has dignity, which you don't see with Kenneth McMillan's Baron Harkonnen.
Mhm.
No, he's just a boiled sort of cartoon villain over the
Not
top.
even sort of. He's a live action cartoon.
Mhm.
He is 100% a cartoon villain.
It also breaks my heart that there's no buildup between Paul and Chani at all.
Yeah.
They
Nah,
sort
no.
of go
Yeah.
from high to, oh my God, they're
Oh.
together. And I'm like, it was subtle. There were dreams shared, you know,
Yeah.
on the overall outcome of Arrakis and things like that, that connect the characters. And that was just gone.
You know, I liked the casting of Shani growing up as a kid because I was 12 years old when I saw this movie, and I thought Shani was gorgeous and just 12-year-old crush.
Mhm.
But as I realized that the Fremen weren't white, it really started to bother me because all the Fremen in this movie are white.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 2 non-white people in this movie, and they're both really light-skinned black guys in the background.
Mm-hmm.
One's an Atreides and one's in the Imperial Court, and that's it. You don't see anybody else that's not white as hell.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that's not 1984 thing. That's a David Lynch thing. I dare you to find more than 1 or 2 people of color in a David Lynch movie. More than 1 or 2 people of color in a David Lynch production. Not counting the Native Americans in Twin Peaks. That's a special case. Which most of them were played by Latinos anyways.
I was going to say True Romance. No.
True Romance isn't Lynch. That's
that's right.
Tarantino writing and
yeah.
Tony Scott directing.
I'm not a cinephile, but I see that you've done your research. What about you, Androl? Were there any changes in the source material?
I mean, that they made the Bene Gesserit, essentially telepathic.
Mm-hmm.
They're not in the books. They're like this super aware or something like that.
Yeah.
So they can pretty much suss out what you're thinking, but I don't think they, actually can read minds.
I think there might be an ability of a truth sayer in the truth trance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the book it was more reading of body language and the minutia of micro expressions and things like that is how they were able to suss out stuff.
In later books, you learn that the Bene Gesserit have like finger sync. It's like maiden hand talk, like sign language, but it's really small movements. It's not like a full hand and arm movement. Mm-hmm. And they can sit there and talk to you, and at the same time doing something with their hand and having 2 conversations at once.
Yeah. I don't know if you ever saw the director's cut of the miniseries, but you get some of that.
It's in the regular miniseries. I remember when it was on the TV when I saw it when it aired. So that was one of the things I liked about it that you got to see.
Mm-hmm.
But the Bene Gesserit are badass. And you don't get it.
Yeah, but you don't get this in this adaptation because I was thinking about it as well. They was made to they're these really they just have bald caps and are like shoved to the side and you are
cool hats though.
They are the ones who like planning for the future of the galaxy pretty much. They are kick-ass at their what is their fighting style called?
The weirding.
The weirding.
Yeah, exactly. And
they took that away and gave it to guns.
And gave it to
the skull cap looks better than that look right there. I don't know what that hair.
That pompadour, that is beautiful.
It is amazing.
I never liked it. It reminds. I know it came many years before it, but it reminds me now of Bram Stoker's Dracula.
It's so done.
Yeah, with the widow peak.
I love it. Yeah.
You see what I mean?
You can bounce bullets off that.
I always thought it was weird looking, but
I don't know if it takes away something from the plot, but I just wonder what the hell is going on with the pug.
I love the
pug.
I have him listed as my favorite actor.
There's a bunch of them actually.
I do. Weird.
There's a dog walker who goes through with like 3 or 4 bugs on leashes at one point.
Sir Patrick Stewart holding the pug in one arm and shooting a laser gun with the other hand.
That was awesome.
That pug is awesome.
That was awesome.
Patrick Stewart was awesome. And this is Patrick Stewart before he was Jean-Luc Picard.
Yeah.
Still a badass.
American audiences did not know who this guy was.
Picard. Anyway, the next question.
And I'm hoping you recognize Dean Stockwell.
Yeah.
Of course, man. Yeah. Quantum Leap.
Quantum Leap, Battlestar Galactica.
That's my boy.
Just they had some heavy hitters. You gotta admit, like what they hired. But
the guy who voices Chucky was in it.
Brad Dourif.
I didn't know that.
Brad Dourif is in so many things.
With his weird hand.
And see, that was basically him saying, "Hey, cast me as Grima Wormtongue" for Peter Jackson many years later.
Pretty much
the same character, really, when you want to get down to it, in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah.
They
yeah.
fit the same role.
Yeah.
And they're both Brad Dourif. I love Brad Dourif. I'm a big Brad Dourif fan. Except for the Chucky movies, I don't go for those.
The things that the next question we may be able to kind of just nudge on by. I'm not exactly sure. I'm going to leave it up to y'all, but the 2B is things that may have been fixed / sped up by the changes. I don't think there's anything that was fixed by the changes that they made.
No.
I think we consensually kind of all just touched on that where we didn't agree that nothing the changes fixed. So I'm going to hop on to question number 3, which is how well did the show adapt the scenery, costumes, and props? So because Bill already kind of spoke about the guns, I'm going to go with you as the first answer to the question for this, if that's okay.
Costume? What costume?
I
That cod piece was amazing.
oh man, the
Yeah.
cod piece.
The cod piece was nice.
Yeah. I will probably say for like as far as the scenery goes, the space battles were the 2 like space battle scenes were kind of bad, but other than that, for its time, the props and the scenery and the costumes actually weren't bad. I will say that was one of the things about Dune. I actually was like, okay, I was impressed because I knew that I was watching something. I was a year old when this came out, had to like, grasp it, but I was like, you know what, actually it's really not that bad. I did not like the space battle scenes. Those were not
Space
good
battle.
for the budget. Not good, but everything else, like the costumes, the scenery, it kind of drew me in. Like you say, I will, with a caveat to that, Glenn, I wish there was a little bit more like you said, North African / Middle Eastern influence kind of on what was going on with the Fremen. They didn't have that, but kind of, the pleather, the like everything about it. Like I really enjoy even how the newer adaptation took the same kind of like the still suit like situation.
I like the still suit.
Yeah.
Those were very good. I like that. We can talk about the Bene Gesserits like bald caps, but like all in all, I would say I'm okay with the senior costumes and props except for the space battles. The space battles, no dice. I didn't like those. So
Would we consider the Spacing Guild navigator to be prop? Because
I don't like that design.
I don't
Yeah.
either.
And that mouth scares me.
The focus of the
Yeah.
space vagina is not necessary. I
Yeah.
didn't need it. It
Yeah,
was-
I wrote-
Especially since it's split down the middle.
Well, yeah,
It's
it's
like
kind of
connected. It's
yeah,
like two
triangle.
mouths together.
Yeah,
because
it's
it's got that
weird.
connection. It just what?
go ahead, Androl.
Yeah, I saw. I put down a note here. So the navigator pukes space travel.
Yeah.
yeah, sort of.
Yeah, it does.
First I thought it farted voice, but it was
No.
no. I think it was the mouth.
It's-
Yeah,
Yeah.
Maybe it's every
But that-
orifice. so
yeah. Who knows?
It's hard to
But-
It's a
tell.
cloaca, the cloaca of the space
Yeah.
travel.
And see, that was one of the changes that they said at the beginning during Irulan's opening monologue. Says
Yeah.
that the spice gives guild navigators the ability to fold space.
Mhm.
Thing is, in the book, the guild navigator doesn't fold space. The Holtzman engine folds space, and the guild navigator just guides it using their prescience.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And again, it's removing a key element of the story
Mm.
for that scene.
I mean, that's that. Yeah, I mean that's kind of a focus on the books of. I mean, it's not allowed to have computers. You're not allowed to make computers that can think like man.
Right.
But you have evolved humanity into such a state that you have I mean, it's pretty much a supercomputer in a person's
The Mentat?
body.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they can calculate how to fold space and where, I suppose. And that's kind of a theme in the book as well. But that's, we just take that out.
Yeah, they're like,
Has the religious overtones and everything like that.
religion doesn't have any bearing in this movie, really.
Well,
Mm-mm.
what it feels like is that when he was writing it, he sort of dumbed it down a little bit.
Mhm.
because the concepts in the book are very, okay, if you go down this path, this religion takes
Right.
form. I mean, they're complicated issues that,
But millions of people have bought and read this book
absolutely.
because they can understand it. I don't think the people, the readership, or even the viewership out there, not nearly as dumb as Hollywood, as you put it, would think. They are. So
Well, I mean,
I think he dumbed it down too much when he didn't
Agreed.
really dumb it down at all.
Some of the voiceovers they do for, internal monologue are 100% unnecessary, and they break the mood of the scene. Like when the
Yeah.
hunter seeker comes through the wall
Oh my.
and Paul's like, oh, who's controlling it? And you get all
Oh,
these inner
yeah.
thoughts about it. You're like, dude, we know he's thinking that. Be quiet. This should be tense. Very tense.
If he's gonna
And they
say
ruined
anything in VO, it would be the stuff he needs to, like, it's gonna be slippery underneath because of the repulsor field, and like, it will kill me, it can't see you if you don't move, which is then killed by the POV shot from inside of it, where you can definitely see Kyle MacLachlan standing there,
Right.
whether or not he's moving. Why somebody at the other end of that camera wouldn't recognize, oh, that's the guy I'm supposed to be hitting.
That's a good way.
So that was a bad choice doing that camera shot.
Okay.
They should not have done that camera shot.
This kind of bleeds into it. This is the next
Yeah.
question, which is very well
But
paced.
I didn't get to answer that one yet.
Oh, my apologies,
That's all right.
Glenn.
That's all right.
I'm
No
so
worries.
sorry. Okay.
One of the very few effect shots that fails for me, it's like the only one I can think of, is when the secondary vehicle is rolling up the ramp onto the spice hauler, the spice harvester. I don't know what that other vehicle is supposed to be, but you see it go running up the ramp, and it looks like a small remote controlled vehicle
It did.
running across 5 feet of sand up a ramp that's no bigger than my arm. I mean, it was wobbly. And that was like the only effect shot that even for 1984 didn't hold up. Other than that, and the whole pooping space travel,
Yeah.
that
Pooping space
the
travel.
special effects were great, I think, especially for that era. The worms looked great. I was blown away
Yeah,
by the worms.
The worms were good.
I still think the worms look good. I mean, I know how they're done now. I know they're small enough to fit in my bedroom. It's like, but still, it works for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I'm not that impressed by the clothes. They're fine, they're okay, but the set design, it's fine, but I think it's because of the direction and how they light it up. It feels too much like a studio.
Yeah.
Where if you, I mean, the only thing I can
Nothing
compare it to
organic.
the only thing I can compare it to is Star Wars at this time, and I mean, I still think that it holds up, but that's because they had some good direction. They know where to point the camera and where not to, and how to light things, so they don't look like it's just wallpaper and spray paint.
Yeah.
I
So
just gotta
that's-
say, it looks like we now know where Donald Trump got the idea for how to decorate his apartment. From the Emperor's throne room.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
That was a
All
lot
gilded.
of gold walls in there. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I love gold.
I mean, I think gold's gorgeous too, but I ain't gonna line my entire apartment with it.
No.
Maybe the shitter. I'm just joking.
That's a Trump thing. I'll do.
Yeah.
So scene or sequence that you most remember, enjoyed, or hated. I'll probably go first. I really it always gets me anytime they start with that whole "fear is the mind killer" speech. I really enjoy that. Anytime that's brought up, the Dom Jabbar, anytime that's brought up, I love that tense scene so much. It's right at the beginning of the movie, just like it is in the book, and I just enjoy that so much. Like it's very good how they did that. That's always going to be like my favorite. If I hear in 30 years from now that Dune is being readaptated, I don't know how you would say that, but if it's being thank you. If it's being readapted again, the first thing I'm going to be looking for my hold up is that scene. It's always going to be that. So
Gom
that's going
Jabbar.
to be, that's always in any adaptation what I'm going to be looking for is how I felt from that scene. Yeah.
I think the Gom Jabbar scene's the best scene in the movie.
I think so. And that's
And-
important to me.
And it all boils down to the fact that Sean Phillips is controlling the scene.
Mhm.
She's
Right.
just so good.
Mhm.
I remember being floored seeing her as, I can't remember which character, in I, Claudius, when I had to watch that in school when I was in college last. She's just everything I've ever seen her in. She just, this commanding presence.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I have to say my least favorite is probably anytime Aaliyah's talking. That voiceover is just pointless, and it's creepier having a kid voice being that
Yeah.
mature, not putting an adult voice.
don't forget though, Aaliyah does have a lisp, and trying to teach a kid how to do a lisp and, you know, consistent, believable lisp like that, probably not that easy. So it was probably more practical to have, not that I liked it, but it was probably more
Yeah, I
practical
don't like it.
to have a grown up, you know, at least somebody older who knew, you know, who knew how to imitate a lisp well, because, you know, she doesn't speak, she's got that speaking impairment.
But my ultimate hate is the rain.
Oh,
I do not like the rain at the very end.
yeah.
Oh, the rain. That's why I
Yeah.
brought it up for the
I
first.
thought you said
yeah.
ring.
Yeah.
thought
I
you
was
said
like, I
No,
didn't
rain.
understand rain. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were all sitting there like, okay.
It destroys future storyline possibilities.
Yeah, I
It
was
muddies
like-
the waters. It's like, come
Ah,
on.
see what you
no.
did there. You made another fun.
Very good job.
Good job.
When it rains, it pours.
What about you, Androl? Was there any scene you most enjoyed, hated, remember?
Every one of them.
Mhm.
No, I mean, there are some scenes that, I mean, I kind of like the fight at the end because it's so bad.
the top,
It's,
yeah.
yeah,
you.
yeah, I
Over
will
the-
kill. Yeah,
Ah.
you see the spectacular acting of Sting.
I'm a
Mhm.
fan of Sting, but my
Yeah, but
God,
Paul
he's so-
breaking that body was cool.
Yeah,
Just-
that's
Yeah.
straight. It's straight
That was cool.
not in the
Yeah.
book either.
No,
Yeah.
but that was still a cool shot.
Yeah. Yeah, but I kind of like that because I don't know why. It was just fun to see.
I will
He's
kill
over the top,
Yeah,
but
it's so
fun-
over the
he's
top. It's
fun in
kind of
this movie.
comical.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's Jim Carrey as Fade
Which-
Ralpha.
You know,
Yeah,
I think the whole, I think they might have gone for the comical stuff on purpose to get kids to
Yeah.
like the movie,
Oh, yeah.
because otherwise, there's nothing there for a kid, most
No.
kids, I should say, to enjoy.
Mhm.
You know, nerdy kids who read the book when they were 11, 12 years old, yeah, they would have enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But most other 11, 12-year-old kids wouldn't have enjoyed it without the over the top, because there was not much fighting.
No.
I mean, there was fighting, but it was what, 5 minutes, the entire movie top?
yeah.
Yeah,
I
pretty
mean,
much.
I mean, it's kind of, I think it's kind of hard to do because they tried to make an adventure movie out of a book and a book
Mhm.
series that's much more allegorical than Star Wars. Star Wars was made to be an adventure. It was
Mhm.
made to
Yep.
be Indiana Jones in space, pretty
Mhm.
much.
Mhm.
So
Space opera. Yeah.
yeah, space opera. It's fun. It's light. It's cool.
Mhm.
But this is so much harder to adapt, I think, to especially at that time where the audience expected some kind of after Battlestar Galactica, Quantum Leap, and stuff like that. They wanted something, light, funny, and that's how you get, atrocities like this, I suppose.
That's not the A word I use. I take the A word straight out of this movie. It's an
Mhm.
abomination.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I,
What about
Nice.
you, Glenn?
I have not held back from calling this movie an abomination for a long time. What would you want? What were you asking?
Oh, the scene that you most remember, enjoyed, or hated?
The scene I most enjoyed and remembered has always been the Gom Jabbar scene.
Yay,
It's
we agree on
like I said, it's my favorite
That's-
scene in the episode.
Mine as well.
My least favorite, I tend to block the rain out of my mind. I go to the other thing of liquid falling from the sky when the Baron's flying around the thing and he goes under it and that black oil
Oh,
stuff.
the oil.
Yeah, that entire sequence, in that very first sequence with the Baron, all the way up to him doing whatever he does to that poor slave boy. Yeah, no. I mean, it got certain key elements of the story that they needed there, but they just destroyed that scene, and it's just wait. I mean, you think Kenneth McMillan's over the top as the Baron, but what's his name is Baron, or is Raban, Beast Raban, is even worse, you know. And then Sting, I don't know what Sting thinks he was doing.
He was,
you know?
Beast Raban was my worst.
Yeah.
For the next version coming up, actually.
That guy eating food is just so off-putting.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
And whatever,
Yeah.
all that process to get that little bit of liquid out of whatever kind of critter you just squashed, that
It's
was just
That leaves us at question number 5, which is the best / worst actor and or best casting / worst casting. For my best, I'm probably gonna have to it's a toss-up between a couple of different people. I mean, they're really good. I know the worst is that Beast Harkonnen guy, like
Raban.
just
Bullshit.
the worst. I really enjoyed, I don't know if it's the best, but I really enjoyed whenever the Emperor Padishah was on screen. Just like what's his name? It starts with an F. Jose Ferrer. His performance in that was just astounding. Like, I enjoyed that very much. So I don't know if it was the best necessarily, but every time he was on screen, it was just overpowering. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, the Beast, yeah, definitely. I was like, ah. But that may be the point.
As a kid, I became a fan of Jose Ferrer because of his performance in this movie.
It was very good.
Nice.
And I like his son's performances and everything I've seen him in too. He's now also passed away, which was a sad day. But yeah, I like both of them, and both of them worked a lot for David Lynch. Well, Miguel more than Jose, but.
So I'm going to pass it to Androl. You haven't started first in a while, so I'll go with you.
Yes, I mean, I enjoyed actually. I mean, I must stand for my country. So, well, now I forgot. Max von Sydow, Dr. Kynes. I kind of like him.
Dr. Kynes.
Yeah,
I like him. Yeah, I didn't list him, but he was always good. One of the early performances I ever saw of him.
Yeah.
He's been in everything, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I think
except Star Trek. I don't know of him in Star Trek. But
no, I don't think so. I don't think he was. It was him and oh no, I forget his name. Lee, Christopher Lee.
Okay.
They were in everything.
Yes.
During a period of, I think, 60 years or something. I mean, bad acting.
And how's his last name pronounced properly?
I don't know, because it's not a Swedish name for what I know. Sydow.
Okay.
So I think it's some kind of, Anglification of Sydow. Maybe.
I always thought it was Sydow, and then like 10 years ago I started hearing Sydow all the time, and I'm like,
yeah. I mean, in Sweden we say Max von Sydow, but it's I don't think it's hails from Sweden, because we pretty much don't have any last names with W in it. So it might be just a guild name they have to get when they starting to act in the States.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What about you, Bill?
I think Patrick Stewart embodied Gurney. I bought him as Gurney.
Yeah.
And that pug rules. So
yeah, there you go. The pug. What about you, Glenn?
Well, my bests, I've got both cast and some crew that I want to shout out here.
Absolutely.
Sean Phillips is Reverend Mother Helen Gaius Molium.
Yeah.
Jose Ferrer is the Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV. Padishah, which is spelled with an H at the end, unlike in the credits. It's an A at the end. Just another example of them taking the Arab Muslim world out of this movie. There was no other reason to drop that. No reason to drop that H.
Mm.
in the credits. But anyways, and in the subtitles. So those two for best for actors, cast or crew. Kit West, who was mechanical special effects. Carlos Rambaldi for the creature effects. Barry Nolan for special photographic effects. Albert J. Whitlock for additional special visual effects. Toto for the freaking epic soundtrack. Can we talk?
Yeah.
That soundtrack is
Yeah. Yeah.
Soundtrack is just
true.
cooler than this movie.
best thing
deserves.
about the movie.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. I can agree. And as a musician, I can say that it's really 80s, but it's also feels modern because this music could have been written today for a sci-fi or a fantasy movie, and it still works.
Mhm.
So
still
I mean, yeah, I mean it's far better than the movie.
That's what I've been enjoying all
Yeah.
week. As I've watched this movie since last Monday. I've watched this movie 5 times.
Oh,
4 of those times
wow.
was on high speed,
Yeah.
but because it's like the only
Watch
way
the
to,
fast forward.
Mhm.
and it just, watching it on at like 1.5 speed
Yeah.
Mhm.
is what I've been doing.
It's better that way as well.
Yes, because it's shorter that way. Weirdly, though, after tonight, I've been waiting it for after today, and then I'm going to watch the extended edition.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Make
So
my
what
still-
Androl watch?
I'm not for the show. I'm not doing a
Okay.
review of it, but I've been putting it off, and I didn't want to get the 2 different versions of David Lynch's Dune mixed in my head. So
Yeah.
I've been very careful not to watch any of the extended, and then I'm gonna watch it, and then I am done.
Yeah.
Have
For
you
the rest
ever
of my life with David Lynch's Dune.
Oh.
have you ever
wow.
noticed the extended official director's cut is credited to Alan Smithy?
Yeah, that's the generic name. That if
Yeah,
you don't want your
when a
name
director
attached,
doesn't want to put his name on it. So
director, editor,
Yeah.
all kinds of people don't
that
want
should
to
give
put their
you a
name on it.
clue.
I
Like,
mean,
they didn't want to put their own name on it.
yeah,
So-
I mean, what I could see from behind the scenes, I mean, even he didn't like the end results. So,
Right.
and that there were much involvement from the studio, and we all know how it goes when studios start to interfere too much.
Mhm.
It's
Although I
not
gotta
always
say,
for the better.
this is probably my second favorite David Lynch movie. But
Yeah,
my favorite movie of his is actually really good, and it's Elephant Man.
Okay,
So
I
what?
liked Elephant Man.
Yeah,
Elephant,
me
I haven't
too.
seen that.
Yeah, it's black and white. The one
liked it.
one of the black and white films that he's done
Pretty
that I
sad.
know of. But
Good.
yeah, it's a really good movie. It doesn't feel like a David Lynch flick at all.
The next question is, how well did the show handle the themes and ideas from the book and its own themes? And since
Before
I've
we
been
get to there, I wanted
Sorry.
to give my worsts because I have a couple of worsts that I want to bring out.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Glenn.
That's all right. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've mentioned it before. Sting is Federafa. And this coming
Mhm.
from somebody who's actually been to a Sting concert. I consider myself a Sting fan. It hurts to say he sucked in this movie, but he sucked in this movie.
Mhm.
Paul Smith as Glossu Beast Raban.
Mhm.
Kenneth McMillan as Baron Harkonnen. Now, crew-wise, Jane Jenkins deserves some kind of bad award for casting department.
Yeah.
Because of the whole, I mean, there was not only so many people that weren't right for the part, like Kyle MacLachlan,
Mhm.
but also the whitewashing of the Fremen that I mentioned earlier.
Mhm.
And then David Lynch for writing, directing, and casting department.
Yeah.
Not only was it a shit show when it comes to directing, but the script almost entirely erased, as I said, the Arab influence. And that was just that's a major part of the story, you know, that you can't change who the Fremen are that way.
No.
It just doesn't work. And even outside the Fremen, there's a lot of other influences there too. That just
Well, yeah, it completely removes the culture behind it.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
and half the non-English words you hear, like, you know, all come from Arab sources, Arabic, you know, originated with the Arabic language or some other Semitic tongue.
Mhm.
But
And
yeah,
and also I have to chime in here because I mean the movies, it is still kind of a long movie, even though it's just 138. but when they get to the Fremen, it's like, oh, and they're in. It was so quick. And then they did a voiceover. Oh, and they fought for 2 years. And I mean, it's so lazy, I feel like. And they didn't have any build up with the Fremen or, earn their respect. It was just pretty much instant.
And there's one character that's completely left out of at least being mentioned in the movie. He gets mentioned a bunch in the book, but Baby Leto.
Oh.
Yeah.
His son, Paul's son. We never see him in the book that I can recall. He's just talked about a lot.
Yeah. We hear about his death.
Yeah, there's not. Yeah, and his death. I don't even think his death is mentioned when the Emperor shows off Aaliyah to the Baron in this movie.
It's not.
I don't. Yeah. So it's just kind of important to Paul. Just a little.
It's one of the many reasons I love the miniseries so much more.
And we'll be discussing that next week.
Little teaser for you.
Yes. Okay, so those are my negatives. We can move on. I'm sorry to do that too.
No,
We're going to themes.
Actually, you did a really good job because it's a perfect segue. Because you've already talked about how well did the show handle the themes and ideas from the book and its own themes. And I think you really kind of hit the nail on the head with your notes about the previous question because of the fact that it took away all of the culture. And, obviously, like you said, Paul's son, in the book, like he's killed off, like we hear about the death off screen. Like, I don't know if Paul ever got to see his son in the books. Like he was with his mom, like in the south of the planet, and he was coming towards him, but he never got to him. And you've already touched on it, Glenn, very well. I think you've really handled this question because, like you say, they don't do any of the foreshadowing. Like he can't foretell the future at all, like in this book the movie. And it says that in the book, like you don't have any of those scenes as well. Like that's just completely gone. So
I've got a list still, but let these gentlemen go when you're done. I always round off themes because I don't want to steal somebody else's points that they had, that they wanted to mention. So go ahead and go around the table, as it were.
Okay. I'll start with you, Phil. Something different.
Yeah, as far as handling the themes, what themes they did hit on are pretty watered down. So you don't get the gravity of the religious implications, the social, you just don't get any of that. You don't get the deep connection from the land to the Fremen people and what that means to them and how it's a spiritual thing for them. You get none of that. There's almost no interpersonal relationships at all. So I think they really missed the mark there. What few points they did hit were extremely watered down.
Yeah, I can only agree with that. I mean, it feels like they just took the soul out of it. And that's also what I feel about the acting, because it's so much, it feels like a bad play put in a lavish production, but some kind of college play or something, because they have no life behind their eyes, and the stakes are watered down, as you say. So I mean, even when there's the big, I think so, but because when there are these big space battles and the emperors come, you don't even get the importance of the spice for the whole galaxy. I mean, you get it explained, you get everything explained, and you get every exposition there is. And I think this is the movie that made people really hate voiceovers in movies. Because this is the way.
Agreed.
This is the way not to do it.
And I will always say, everybody who watches my videos knows there's one perfect example, in my opinion, of voiceover, and that's Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles. Lena Headey's work on there in the voiceover and the writing of the voiceovers were just perfect. I've never seen voiceover done as well.
I was terrified that Wheel of Time would go the 1984 Dune route and have a lot of this. And that was
Oh.
one of the, I mean, Perrin especially,
Wait
Yeah.
till we meet
I
the
was
wolves.
really worried about that.
Guess we'll
I
see.
mean, I would take this for the wolves over the wolves' mouths talking, moving.
Oh, agreed. You kind of have to, but
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like that they did that better in the new adaptation that came out a year ago.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have all that much exposition, but they had good actors that actually could convey what they were thinking with, I mean, acting
Mhm,
as you're supposed to, I think, in a movie. So you
mhm.
don't need all that exposition.
Apparently that's acting.
Yeah.
I will kill you.
I will kill you.
I enjoy
I
seeing
will.
it out there. Yeah. You know what they haven't had in a Dune? Well, they have had, but it's not enough for my own. I guess if Jenn was making a movie, this is completely irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. But from the book, the thing that my takeaway is the theme is like ecological conservation. It's really what it, I mean, I'll like, of course, if you get down to the spiritual, you get it. It's, you know, when I was introducing Dune to a couple of my friends, and they were very curious about Dr. Kynes, oddly enough, and they really were like, "Huh, that's an interesting character. It's the most interesting character out of this." I'm like, "I think so," and I agree. But they hadn't read the book, and they're like, "Is Kynes someone to be trusted?" Was what, as somebody that doesn't know anything about the books or anything, is their takeaway when you first meet Kynes. I said, something I wish Dune would do is, you know, they, of course it's mentioned, you know, the desert, trying to make it, you know, biodiverse and that sort of thing, and what they're trying to do for generations, and when that's, you know, before Paul even came across them, was like, that's their whole thing with water. But I said the first and foremost thing that Kynes is, the motivation behind Kynes is they're an like an ecologist. That's what they are.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what, you know, the point is. And they're also making a lot of grand themes as far as themes goes, because this is the themes question, about, you know, just kind of like a planet for its sources, for spice, for what that is, and like, and how the indigenous people are trying to fight against that. That's a huge theme in Dune, and it's where it veers off into the house fighting and the guild fighting and the warrior fighting, but and you know, the exoticness of the Fremen. But I wish more were, if it would be painted more through the lens of, you know, not like eco conservation. That would be super, super cool. And I wish that was touched on more. And the only thing I've really seen the closest to that is from the book. There's no adaptation that I've seen that has really touched on that deeply.
The movie hinted just a little bit at the whole idea of changing the environment and ecology of Arrakis
Mhm.
when they took them through where they had the water. Didn't they see the
Right.
water in the movie?
Mhm. Mhm.
That is in the movie, right?
Mhm.
This was,
Yeah.
Where and you know, the big giant cisterns of water
Mhm.
that's stored there not for drinking,
No,
but for the land.
or for the future.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
So, you know, so yeah, it's
there.
hinted at there, but it just like, you know, it's like me saying, "Hey, you want to smoke a joint with me?" and then showing you the joint and then walking away.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It's there, but it's like not. It would be cool to see Dune reimagined as just kind of saying, you know, more of a warning to maybe this is what your planning could turn into. Like, I don't know, you know, if that's what Herbert was trying to do, because I haven't
I'm
read all
hoping
the
that's
books.
I'm hoping that's what Villeneuve does with part 2. To
That
be
could
honest,
be. That could be.
The further books in the series do touch upon that a lot more. So I
Okay.
can't say much.
Okay.
I can say that is a huge aspect moving forward.
I would like
Yeah.
to see that then. That
So-
gives me hope for further That's nice.
Uh,
I like that part. That's my favorite part.
I don't know if this has anything to do with the question because I forgot the question already. But I was thinking that, did you think about that the Fremen, they talked a lot about the Fremen, but they didn't, I mean, they had like one Fremen person that talked or two, maybe, but you know, you had very little interaction with them except when they were fighting, and you know, with just big fighting scenes.
Right.
Mhm.
So I mean, first they come in, they get accepted pretty much immediately, and then they just, oh, we are your gods and we will lead you into battle.
Mhm.
And it takes away the Fremen agency, I think.
Mhm.
I mean, it takes away, it makes them the noble
does that,
savage
it
from
does.
the desert that we need a supreme white leader to come and lead them the right
Alright,
way.
Right.
Okay.
Savior
You had
complex.
the, all right, now, before we go down the road of calling this a white savior movie, go to
Ah,
Quinn's Ideas on YouTube. Quinn, Quinn apostrophe S ideas, and type into the search bar, is Paul Atreides a white savior? This is a black man who will show you that it's not the case. So it's
Mm.
not a white guy trying to, you know, apologize for Dune and that sort of function. This is a guy who just shows you, no, this is not the case. Part of which is also the fact that Paul Atreides is not white. The best casting I have seen yet for Duke Leto is right there. I can't think of his name. Oscar Isaac.
yeah.
I'm blanking on his name, because there's a one line in there in the book where Leto's skin is described as brown or
That's true.
darker.
I remember
Yeah.
that.
We're just talking about the movie though. And
Yeah,
in the
we-
movie aspect,
Yeah.
it has been whitewashed quite heavily.
Yeah.
But you can't
So-
white savior a bunch of white people. Unless you're Donald Trump with the South.
Okay.
You know?
I
Well,
think it's
well,
mm,
you can. I mean, the indigenous people in Sweden are white, most of them. So,
mm,
Okay.
I mean, it's not. I mean, you have to
I didn't
remember
know
that.
there was a
the-
different.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
demographic.
yeah. Oh yeah. We have indigenous people all around the world, even in places like Russia, and they're mostly white.
mm.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's there's history of oppression
It just
there as well.
in the form of a movie, I don't think it works that way.
Yeah, I get that.
You know, at least it doesn't seem like that would work. So even with this movie, I can see why people would argue it if you ignored Leto's skin color in the book, okay, and you actually paid attention to the skin color of the Fremen from the book when you make the movie. And then if you do it like we saw here, then that would be, but I mean, I get the point, but it's not technically. It's like,
Yeah, not the story. We're just specifically talking about this version
yeah.
of the movie
It-
has
Like I said,
been
if the
changed
Fremen, if
dramatically.
the Fremen had been non-white dudes, I would say this movie would totally have it. One thing this movie totally ignores is the Missionaria Protectiva, which
Yeah.
is
Oh,
the
yeah.
only reason why Paul and
Even
Jessica
exists.
are
Yeah.
able to play this religious card, this
Yeah.
savior card, you know, which is a very cynical way of going about things when you think about it. But I mean,
But genius.
genius, yes. But that goes in. Let me go in. Let's use that as my first theme that I brought in from the book. That whether or not it's addressed, one of the themes from the book is colonialism and oppression. We can see it. I mean, it's not really discussed much against the Fremen, but this movie doesn't shy away from the fact that it was there. It doesn't delve into it much, which is a little disappointing. The first thing I had on my list of themes is what makes a person human. It's a big question that Reverend Mother had with Paul, and it's dealt with throughout the books at many different times and later books. it is Aaliyah human. She's being called an abomination. Book and in the movie, she's being called an abomination.
Mm-hmm.
Is she? I mean, genetically, she's human, but is she human the same way we are? For that matter, is Paul human anymore as the Kwisatz Haderach?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then not even just as a species, human as in your behavior. Are any of the Harkonnens human?
I would say the Bene Gesserit are like a higher level of human, even. It's just
The
their
Mentats,
entire
I would
order.
say too.
Mentats for sure.
And the biggest one on are they still human? Are the Guild Navigators? And
Well,
this movie,
Sardaukar, you would think that they're training.
well, Sardaukar are just really highly trained soldiers.
Yeah.
But the Guild Navigators definitely. This movie was, you got to wonder, looking at them, did they start human? Are they human? Are they an alien? And then you find out, oh no, they started as human, and the spice evolved them into that. So, in one way,
brain blob.
in one way, an over-the-top design for this movie kind of actually worked. The next theme I have written down is one you brought up, Jenn, ecology. I specifically wrote ecological impact of humans, which, we have ecological impact all over the place on this world. And in the book, we have it on Dune. And we even find out a bit about other worlds.
It could be a really heavy part they can lean into for the second part of Villeneuve's
it definitely
part 2. I really enjoy exploring that part of the book and the message there. I really do.
Oops.
Hopefully that gets
My phone
touched
was
on. No, that's okay. Yeah.
Had an alarm I forgot was going to go off. Next one I have is terraforming. Now, you can't really say it's addressed in the movie unless you count when Paul Muad'Dib made it rain on the desert.
Nice slip there.
There you go.
It's about the only nod to terraforming is Paul making it rain. And I'm like, okay, that's, not quite, but it's the closest they get.
Yeah, I know. I don't have to like it though.
Yeah. Big one that you'll see everywhere is different power structures of control over people. I'm talking about it in different ways, whether through religion, which the Bene Gesserit play that card, social, economic, political, and how they interact. There's a lot what the book dealt with. The movie, a little bit of that, but everything still, they left out all the religious stuff, and it all just boiled down to the emperor, really, who had power, and then whoever controlled the spice, which the part nobody else realized. Also tied into this would be like question authority. Don't necessarily believe what you're being told, because you're being told that there's only so many Fremen on Arrakis, for instance, and turns out somebody was either not doing their job counting, or people were lying,
or the Fremen are really good at hiding.
And that too.
Or they may have they have an in with the Navigator Guild.
The Fremen really need to teach them Aiel some ways. But tied in these is Paul's reluctance to be the cause of a jihad across the Imperium, which he has in the book, but we don't see any of that in this version of the movie.
Right.
Let's see. I'm checking my notes here. We see the results of the Missionaria Protectiva's influence on the Fremen religion, but we don't ever hear them mentioned. Which
no, they don't mention the setup at all.
But the fact that you're missing how religion has been manipulated to control a populace for down the road. Duty was a theme. Saw lots of Atreides troops throwing themselves in the way, out of sense of duty. And I guess you could say Paul's doing his duty, trying to reclaim his dookie. Dutchy, I know. I like saying dookie.
I know you do. That's why I'm laughing.
I wish Max was here because I've got Max's favorite theme, and that, at least during the Expanse, and that was resource scarcity of oil. I mean, spice.
Yeah.
Same difference. And the oil, spice is oil. I don't like the fact that we didn't see a lot of that, and we didn't get much, but water is another resource that's scarce, obviously. We got a bit of talking about that when they talked about the still suits and how they worked, and we even saw Dr. Kynes get ripped open. I mean, no better way to show how a still suit holds your water than to rip one open.
Yeah.
Right.
A big one is selective breeding,
Yeah.
or as we call it nowadays, eugenics. Denny Jessert had had this program going on for what they say 90 generations.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I bet you it's all only with the noble houses too.
Well, yeah, they specifically pretty much state that in the book that,
Yeah.
it's between the noble houses advancing the greatest humans from the house.
That's what they think. They don't know what's
Well,
being
yeah.
left. Yeah, they don't know what's being left amongst the populace.
That brings us back to the question of, well, that depends on what you define as human.
Yeah.
Exactly. That is one that
And-
this book keeps. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that, I mean, as you say, there are so many themes and you have so many factions, especially in the books. You can see the factions, playing out against each other. It's like they're playing 3D chess. So you have houses against each other, and then you have the emperor trying to control the houses. Because when I first saw the new movie, I was a little confused because I had no prior knowledge of Dune when I saw it, and I didn't really, pay attention. So when I have read the book, I could see that there are so many more layers than just, they need to get rid of the house, because why didn't just the Harkonnen attack Atreus, or the Emperor send his armies there? But that would make the other houses be unpleased. But we don't like that the Emperor can attack us anytime we want. And then you have the religious faction trying to have some control over the population as well. So you have it's pretty much like George R. R. Martin and Robert Jordan, I think, took inspiration from Dune.
Oh
And
yeah.
how all of the factions, balancing, and then you have the people trying to balance them against each other without them knowing, and the manipulating each other to gain advantage.
100%. That's a great point, Androl. You see, I heard somebody, a good friend of mine, referenced Dune as, the granddaddy of science fiction and all of it, and I can definitely see
It's
so
up
much.
there.
It's kind of cool because I didn't know about Dune until recently, and I've read other stuff, and I come back to it. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
oh,
you start to see it everywhere.
oh no,
It's
And
blue
then
car syndrome.
it was like, yeah, I'm like, now I get it. Now I get with people that have, followed this story for years and are reading newer stuff, and they're like, wait a minute. And I get it now. It's so cool to kind of go back in time in a different way and see it. And I'm like, oh, wow, dude really did so much. People don't even know I didn't know,
Yeah.
It's so cool. It's super cool, actually.
Last of the things I had, it did deal with, there was a lot of love in the book, interpersonal love, mostly like family members and stuff like that, but it was there. But you also had like the Baron for his wealth and power and vengeance, which he got. But those, most of the love things, examples of love being a theme in the book, all there in the movie too. So I'll give him credit on that one. Other than that, didn't really catch much of the themes, or when they did, like you said, it was watered down. You know, I don't know if he just didn't get some of it, which I gotta wonder sometimes watching his movies, but I know people think he's a genius. I have started to wonder why. So,
Well, he's admitted he wasn't familiar with the property before it came across
really,
for this movie.
I didn't
So
know that.
yeah, he was not that familiar with the property at all. So
So he probably did a speed read and then wrote the script from that.
that's what it feels like. I can't say
Okay.
100%, but that's definitely what it feels like to me. I mean, unfortunately. Like Villeneuve, when he came out with his version, that guy has read the books
Yes.
and he feels it.
Yes.
It is. He's like, all right, no, we're going to do this. Then, these are the things we need to hit.
Mhm.
And it hits spot on. So
Yes, he does.
How well did the writers adapt the characters?
Writers and production. I did that.
Casting choices, character motivations, backgrounds, etc.
Yeah.
I not very well.
yeah.
Not very well.
Hmm.
That's just gonna be my answer. I'm just gonna leave it at that. They made like paper cut, like the little paper cut figures of Frank Herbert's characters. I really do believe that. So yeah, I'm just gonna say not very well, and that encompasses the general vibe that I overtook from that. Yeah, probably the worst part of the movie to me is the writing. It's got to be, because I can
Yeah.
overlook pooping space. I can overlook like all of it. I could even overlook the rain part if they writ it in some way that I was like fine, but they didn't do any of that. So I'm like, okay, I'm a reader by obviously.
The best part about that rain sequence is it gave Robert Jordan a brilliant end for the Shadow Rise.
It did.
Yeah,
It did.
yeah.
I can agree on that.
It made Ruidian what it is and what we know it today. So
Because I don't think that would have happened if it hadn't been for
No.
that scene in the Dune movie. It just, the parallels are too
Spot on.
striking.
Yeah, for real. So yeah, I'll pass it to Androl, I guess, if you want to.
No, it's not good. I mean, because of the poor writing. I mean, I really can't tell the motivations of most of the characters and why they do what they do. But that's mainly because of poor writing, I think. And no, it's, I mean, I think, now forgetting names. Patrick Stewart was, it's pretty okay. I didn't like Duncan Idaho a bit.
Oh man,
He's
they
did him dirty. They did him dirty.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it at 1.6 speed, and it still felt like he was talking like this. So at normal speed, it must be like 30 seconds between every word. I mean, he could have probably played Leto better than Duncan Idaho. I just didn't like it. But that's most of the characters.
What about you, Glenn?
Well, I've already mentioned the two that I thought were well done, and that I think, other than the way Emperor Shaddam looked, because in the book he's a redhead, so his hair should be like what we see all the Harkonnens having. But in his age, other than that, I thought he was well handled. I actually kind of think he was better done in the movie than, at least actor-wise, than anybody else I could have imagined. At that time period. I'm a little nervous about Dune Part 2 with Christopher Walken as the Emperor, because I don't want to see him walking that up. Being Christopher Walken would just utterly ruin it for me. So, but I'm a little nervous about that. And the other one was Sean Phillips as Reverend Mother Helen Gaius, Helen Gaius Mulliam, or is it Gaius Helen Mulliam? I don't remember. I think it's Helen Gaius Mulliam. I was writing it down
I
wrong.
think so.
So, yeah, and the only thing I didn't like about her was, the way they designed their look, that Reverend Mother look of bald. It's like the spice agony causes baldness or something in women because it didn't do it to Paul.
I don't know, she had that really cool headpiece though, man, that came up like halfway to the back of her head. I kind of like that.
I sometimes wonder if, they're Kyrian and noblemen getting ready to go to war.
Sure.
Okay, I could see that.
Yeah.
For
And
sure.
it's just the women in this movie going to war, not the men. So, yeah, those were the two I had. Everybody else, it was either way over the top ridiculousness added on top of character assassination. But I mean, Francesca Anise wasn't bad, and the way they handled Jessica was okay. I mean, she was a little bit more teary-eyed than I remember Jessica being in the book. The only time I remember Jessica crying in the book was when Paul was going through the Gum Jabbar.
There was another time.
There was another time? Okay.
Yeah, when she was talking to Aaliyah on why Aaliyah felt persecuted. She actually shed a tear.
Yeah.
So.
No, but we don't get anything about Aaliyah really in this version of the film. And we get her crying her eyes out, that night as they're being attacked by the worm, and then the fact when she realizes Leto's dead, and I don't see a Bene Gesserit woman crying that easily, at least not bawling out like she was in the movie. So she'd be up there if it wasn't for just her not being as tough as I remember listening to and reading Jessica being.
What about you, Bill?
For me, the way this interpretation of the source material feels is very much like they took these very intricate, nuanced, and complicated characters and pulled one or two minor interesting things about them and just said, this is them. So it definitely left me wanting, I guess would be the word. I mean, you didn't even pick the best, most interesting aspects of them. You just sort of cherry pick little things here and there.
Gotcha.
So it's not the heart and soul of the character isn't there. So unfortunately,
it was disappointing.
Yeah.
Because this could have been a sci-fi movie we needed back then, but it wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, I think they took away so much of the personality of many of the characters.
Right.
I think. I mean, Jessica. I think it's much better in the book. She has more. I mean, she's struggling with because she pretty much betrayed the Bene Gesserit by giving Leto a son instead of a daughter. I mean, they have something. I mean, the implication is that you are betraying something that they have been planning for generations. That's kind of big deal, I think.
That's ballsy.
And they just take it out pretty much, and just a throwaway line that she gave him a son instead of a daughter, and that's about it. So you take away her struggles as well, I think.
Yeah.
And that she's a badass.
Absolutely.
Jessica is a badass.
She's totally a badass. Yeah. She has her own weirding way of fighting, and like she took down a Freeman, like just straight up. So,
and he liked it.
He did.
Oh yeah.
He wasn't too mad about it. He's like,
okay. They then just completely ignore the weirding way.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, except when Paul says, this is part of the weirding way when he's introducing the
Yeah.
weirding module.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like,
Don't get me started on that.
Yeah,
Ugh.
it's so stupid.
I
It's
don't
so
know
stupid.
if it's the worst thing in the movie, but it's pretty close.
Yeah.
It's a
The
tie between that and the rain. I
Yeah.
hate the rain so
Yeah.
I
much.
opened this with the rain.
I know it's
I'm-
okay.
I-
I'm just like, oh man.
I
mean,
was like, why
I-
is the rain?
I think they did it because of many reasons, but probably because they wanted some more cool action and blow stuff up.
Mhm.
And it's easier to do that than, you know, make a training montage or something where they actually learn how to fight in a different way than they are used to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I mean, the fighting scenes are pretty bad as it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
All of them.
The shields
Yeah.
are not good.
Even
Oh,
Shield
God.
is
1984, the shields were pretty awesome. For 1984 computer technology,
Mhm.
that was
Yeah,
leading
but
edge.
looking at it now, it is not
Yeah,
good.
It's like, what is this? Dire Straits, money for nothing?
Oh.
They're so blocky. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, they could make curves. I'm sorry, but they could make
Yeah.
curves in 1984. They may not have been great, but they at least would have been curved.
And they should have been a little bit more translucent,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know, because they don't know that they've got the shield on except for they feel the crinkling of their skin, the tightening of
Right.
their skin as the shield turns on. So shields should be invisible, but you know, for a movie, you kind of got to show them
Yeah.
somehow. You
I
know,
get that.
so I'm forgiving of the way the shields look. I just wish they'd done better fights, but you know, it was the '80s. They still haven't learned how to choreograph a good fight routine here in these states. At least not put,
No.
So I'm not surprised that those fight scenes were what they were,
Yeah.
but they
Slow
are
motion messes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's most of this movie. Unless you're watching it at Androl's house, then it's a fast motion mess.
There you go.
Mm,
2
That's
times
way
speed.
better. I like Indol's way. I'm like, gotta remember that for the future. The next question is the scoring. So we're now into the scoring segment. How close the adaptation was to the source material. So how close was this movie to the book? How I'd score / grade it out of 10. I'll go first. An attempt was made, so I'm going to give it a 5 of 10. That's what I'm going to say. They could have ran away with the plot completely. I think they tried to stay close to the plot. They just didn't write it very well. So that's going to be my takeaway of it. And I'll pass it to you, Glenn, for how you'd rate it.
Rating it for accuracy to source material, I'm coming in at about a 4.0 out of 10.
Okay.
Not quite average, you know, not quite even halfway there, but you know, like you said, there was an attempt made. An attempt was made, but I think he read the book and then sent it back to the library and tried to write the script from memory. So he might have taken some notes on a notepad, but if he did, they got coffee spilled on it, so he couldn't read what he wrote.
What about
But
you,
yeah.
Androl?
I would say, yeah, 4.5 maybe. I mean, they try. It's like the modern equivalent would probably they read the Wikipedia page, but only the cliff note, the table of contents. They didn't read anything more. So yeah, no, it's not a good adaptation, I think.
Fair.
So yeah, that's what I have to say.
Bill, round us off. What's your score grade of how you say it's close to the source material of the book?
A very generous 3. They got some names right. We'll go with that.
I like that answer. That's great. Okay. Love it. I love how you read the last of it too. That's wonderful. So the next question is going to be how much I enjoyed the show as if I never read the books. This is going to be my lowest grade of all these questions. If I didn't know anything from it and someone's like, yeah, there's this movie called Dune, it's sci-fi, let's watch it, I would be like, all right, cool. And they put it in, 2
Wow.
2 out of 10. I'm going to be very negative about this. First of all, especially because I don't really watch a lot of movies. I'm not a cinephile, but like if this was put on, I would be like, what the hell? I would just probably be like, what is this? Would be more how I would take it, but not even in a good way. It would just be like, there's just like, I think there's like some sort of Shakespearean melodrama that they're trying to make a spoof of. Actually, they're spoofing Shakespeare, but it's in space, and something about a worm. Like that's kind of what I would feel. That would be the vibe that I would get from it. So I ended with Bill. I'm gonna pick up with you. How would you enjoy the show if you've never read the books?
This came out in 1984. I remember getting it on VHS, having no clue what it was, but it was weird enough to get me to pick up the book. So I am going to give it a 4.
Okay, awesome. Androl?
Was this the first version you saw then?
Yes.
Okay.
So I don't have any attachment to this book series or the movies because I didn't see this until today, pretty much. I saw this movie, and I saw the new movie that came out a year ago when it came to HBO, and so I watched that first, and after that I read the book. And now I've seen this one. So after seeing the new movie, it was really, really good.
Yeah.
And much better translated from the source material. And this, I mean, I'm so used to, especially when I don't have any, emotional attachments. Like Glenn, you saw it when you were a kid. It's much more easy to be forgiving. So I would probably give it 1.5 or a 2 max. Because
that's fair.
Yeah, no, I didn't enjoy it.
At least you read a good book out of the whole deal.
Yeah.
The book's fantastic.
Nice one.
Have you gone back to watch the Villeneuve version since reading the book?
No, but I'm going to.
Good.
Yeah.
I haven't. Well, this is the first time I've read it since reading the book or seeing that movie. So, for me on this one, a long time ago, I learned how to separate this movie from the Frank Herbert book and be able to watch this movie, specifically actually the extended edition, but it still kind of counts somewhat with this edition, and be able to enjoy it. Okay, so I'd give this one a 6 out of 10, 6.0 out of 10 for ability to how much I can watch it, ignoring the books, because I know I can do it and I know I can get enjoyment out of it. So maybe not as great of a love as I had when I was young, before I was able to grok, but that didn't come about until my mid-teens, I don't think. So, but yeah, I'll give this a 6 out of 10.
Okay. And to wrap us all up, and to kind of like this last question, but slightly different, how much you enjoyed the show overall, taking into consideration all of the changes. Score grade it. So this is saying, taking into the book, like the book, like what do you think about all the changes? I want to grade it slightly higher because I looked at this when I was coming into it as an academic study. So I got more enjoyment looking at it from that way. Like I was already like analyzing, because I read the book first, like, how is this compared to this and blah, blah, blah. So that was more enjoyable to ingest in that format, like that way. So it's going to be higher than a 2, but it's still not good because I, unfortunately, just like Androl, I saw the remake first from all this, then read the book, then read this. So I know what a good Dune adaptation can be, and I saw that before I watched this. So enjoying this overall is probably going to be like a 3.5. I would probably say overall. The academic part of it bumped it up for me because I enjoy things like that. I'm a brown aja in the Wheel of Time, so I'm like, ooh, okay, that's fun. That makes it fun, but that otherwise no. And I'm going to take it to you, Glenn.
See, I did the exact opposite on these last two, where your lowest was on the previous question. My lowest is on this question.
Okay.
My enjoyment of the movie overall, taking into consideration the book, is actually a 2. I went way down for this one because, like I said, not letting the book into my head, I can enjoy it to an extent, you know. But when I remember that it's based on Frank Herbert's book, I just it's abhorrent. It's an abomination. It really is. It shouldn't exist.
Wow.
Not anymore. We've got 2 better versions of Dune out there. We can put this one in storage and just not open that vault ever again.
What about you, Bill?
I'm pretty much with Glenn on this one. Knowing what it could be, knowing what it is on the page, and then having this out there is just, as a Dune fan, it's a stab to your heart a little bit. So I got to go 2.
Sounds good to me.
Androl, we'll end with you this evening. What is your score?
Yeah, I would say about 3, maybe at max as well. Even if I'm pretty good at separating the source material from the adaptation, I still, even if I hadn't read the book, I wouldn't enjoy this movie very much. Unfortunately.
That's
You
fair.
probably wouldn't have bothered with the new Dune movie if you'd seen this first. I know people who won't. I know
But
who
we
people
wanna
who
see.
won't.
Yeah, but no, I wouldn't be discouraged because I follow too many nerds on the internet,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
after all the rage after that movie came out, I would maybe
Okay,
it
I'll
would be
see that.
better.
I would want to be like, well, I've seen this. It can't get worse. I mean, it's got to be updated. So, like,
True.
that would be that discouraged. I would be like, I would just go into it kind of skeptical, but I would be like, okay, maybe they can do it better. Maybe, and I would be happy about that. So, if anything,
The Sci-Fi Channel proved they could do it better. It just took them 3 times as many hours.
Right. And a way lower budget, though. So,
Yeah,
yeah, it's like, where did this money go? I guess all of it paying the actors, I guess.
yeah.
And that was 16 years later with a lower budget.
yeah.
That's insane. I still can't get over it that this movie cost 40 million. That's $3 million more than the Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
It came out, I think, 3 years before this.
I think it made 38 in box offices.
Yeah.
At the time,
You
which
see,
is a bomb. Yeah.
like
Huge.
I said earlier, it was great special effects, but there's a caveat to that.
Yeah.
Unless you're up against Industrial Light and Magic.
Yes.
If you're comparing what ILM was doing, well, nah.
I mean, it's kind of hard to compare because Industrial Light and Magic pretty much invented the new era of effects in science fiction.
Both new
and
eras.
fantasy. Yeah. So I get that as
The
well.
motion capture and the digital era.
Yeah.
So I think we just had a really good show, you guys.
Yeah.
Anybody else
Yeah.
got any further thoughts, comments that they'd like to put forth about Dune, book or movie?
I just hope someday I can look at this movie the way I look at Flash Gordon, the movie.
Mhm.
I mean, that's fun for me to watch now because it's so bad, it's good.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to get to that point someday with this version of Dune.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if that's possible.
I don't either. I'm hoping though.
Because Flash Gordon is a much better movie.
I mean,
It is entertaining.
I think even if you're attached to the source material of Flash Gordon, it's much easier to watch that again because it's kind of campy and fun. It got humor
Right.
in it. This movie doesn't have any humor in it, so it's
No,
hard
it
to me
doesn't.
to rewatch a movie that doesn't have
I mean,
any humor at all. pretty much.
unless we're supposed to be laughing at the Harkonnens.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that's like physical gags. Oh,
But
look,
I just got
it's
cringe
disgusting.
from that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I was like, no, this isn't funny to me. This is like, all right. Like,
The
I
pug
get it.
did make me laugh.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
When he came
Pug.
up, came out the ship. But
It's
is a
like,
pug?
yes,
what?
it's the future, and we still have
Yeah.
bugs. Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything's
that's
gonna
evolution
be all right.
for you.
Yeah, they saw cats
Yeah,
with a fake rat tied to him.
yeah.
No.
That you have to
Yeah, that
milk.
was-
'Cause
Yeah,
I
that's
used to
weird.
think that rat was real, but I never really paid attention to it. I just assumed it was real. And yesterday I was looking at it. I'm like, no, that rat's not real. The cat is, but
Mhm.
that's
No,
not a real rat.
That rat is rubber. I mean,
Yeah.
And
Just a straight up rubber rat.
I had never really looked at it. You know, I
Yeah.
just
$40
It's-
million rubber rats.
Rubber rat.
It's so strange because watching the special effects and everything on this movie today, just before I went on with you guys, I'm watching season 4 of Westworld,
oh,
and the
Oh.
effects.
oh,
I mean,
wow.
we have come a
Oh.
long way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's insane how good that looks, and this doesn't.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us tonight.
Well,
you.
thank you for having us, and Jen, it is an honor to be your first guests
Yay! I'm
as an
so
official
excited.
member.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
very
love
cool.
coming in for Dune. I'm like, yes, this is an awesome thing to come in.
She started reading it a couple months ago when I told her what we had come up, and like a couple days later, she's like starts sending me messages like, "Oh my God, this book is so good! Why did nobody tell me how
It
good
is.
this
Made
book
my
was?"
friends watch it. I've been watching it over and over again. I love these books. I haven't been
They're
excited
good.
about a book like that in a long time. So yeah,
They're good.
read more.
They are.
So, we've had two great guests tonight, and thank you for coming on. Welcome, Jen, as our new co-host.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody at home, for watching. We've had a great time talking about this not so great movie. So next week, we will be discussing the Sci-Fi Channel's miniseries, 3-night event miniseries. We're doing all 3 episodes in one show, though. And we'll be reviewing that next week. Not sure who all we'll have on next week. I know we'll have Bill back at least. And thank you for joining us. And don't forget to be awesome.